Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Baumann, if you could come and open us up with prayer. He's with Bedford Alliance Church.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you so much for this evening that we all can get together and take care of some business that we need to get taken care of. But I just pray for everyone's well-being and health, and just pray for this group tonight that we get along. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing. Request for approval of a resolution to establish the Village Meadows Subdivision, Plat 3, Streetlight Special Assessment District. Look for a motion to open a public hearing.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion is supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Francis? Aye. Tinneberry is absent. Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0.
This is a public hearing just to establish the setting of one light in Village Meadows Subdivision Plat 3, which Bryce Benkowski has already paid for. It was $100. That's all this is.
Okay. Anybody from the public like to speak on this issue? Okay, seeing none, I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis? Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the streetlight in Village Meadows Subdivision Plat 3, which has already been paid for by the developer as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis? Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Item B, request for possible issuance of Class C liquor license. Ms. Hirschberger? Look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing. Support.
Okay, motion supported, Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Francis? Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Okay, would anybody like to come speak on the issuance of the Class C liquor license? Now would be the time to do so. Seeing none, I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing. Support.
Motion is supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Okay, Ms. Hirschberger?
Do we want the applicants to come up and both speak? Is that appropriate, Phil?
Yes. There's two applicants here. I assume they're both here tonight, so
Yes.
you can have them address the board and make their presentation.
Make their case.
Yeah. Make their case as Mr. Frederick states.
But shaken, not stirred, like to start us off. John and Tony, come on up.
Hi, John Bates, Shaken Not Stirred. We own Quimby's Food and Spirits. We also have purchased Sage recently. We do have a clean liquor bill where we have not had any outstanding checks on it. That means we do by the book, we do by our business by the book, and we pride ourselves on that. We are planning on opening a new restaurant and the development going in Stearns and Secor, the cow pastures, the 23 acres. As that development takes place, there will be a nice commercial development that will have an area for a restaurant, and this liquor license is needed to help that development and to, obviously, for a restaurant in that area. And we would like to have it.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Bates from board members?
I do. What is an ETA given, or as rough as you can estimate towards breaking ground and then ultimately having structures there? Real world.
Real world structures, we have probably another 90 days on the planning process to get through to get our actual development into the township, and then probably another 120 days. So I would say fall 2019 on that phase.
Any more questions from board members? Mr. Goldsmith, did you have something you wanted to add?
I just wondered if the, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if that would be developed as a planned unit development. Is that the track you're taking now?
That is the track the township has been working with us on. We
Okay.
do have two companies that we're working with that want to do some outlet lot type of position. We just finally got our drawings back today, and we'll plan on taking that back to the township board and the DDA to take a look at it. And we'd like to do what the township thinks best of us. We do things by the books.
One last question. Mr. Bates, does any of your, let me just ask a direct question. Shaken Not Stirred LLC is the applicant in this. Does it hold any other liquor licenses currently?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we've applied for the one at Sage, which came with the building, and I don't see any reason why we won't get it. We've purchased it, the money's in escrow.
And a separate LLC would control your other holdings?
No, the LLC, Shaken Not Stirred, holds both liquor licenses.
Okay.
And it would, likely, we would do the third liquor license, just the DBA is something new at the new
Gotcha.
facility.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Steiner?
Mr. Bates, I see that the proposed plans also would include live music on Fridays and Saturday evenings. Is that indoor, outdoor?
That would be indoor.
Indoor? Because I know, unfortunately, it's a tough thing to crack when you do outdoor.
Oh, we know.
And I know you know that, but I'm just stating that because I know that it's tough, even though you can try hard, but it's tough to keep noise down on, at nighttime, and sound travels quickly. So I just had that question on that. I think Mr. Clements answered the time frame. So you're probably, now you said fall of next year. Is that, you talking about opening or?
Break ground.
Okay. Yeah, because when you first said 90 and 120, I thought, well, that'd be spring, but you've got a little more
Yeah,
work to
but
do
we've
in
got
there.
there's a little bit more to it.
Yeah.
There's phasings, road infrastructure. We'll probably break ground on the road infrastructure hopefully in late spring, but the roadway infrastructure, working, tapping out all the electrical, sewage, plumbing, it's gonna take some time.
Yeah, and I think with the POD, type application, it probably puts a little bit more of partnership in there between the township and you as well.
Correct.
That's all.
Mr. Francis?
I'm perplexed a little bit. I read the ordinance again, and a couple of items kind of stuck out in my mind. One was there is no facility that's owned or leased by the applicant. Our ordinance kind of requires that. And the other one that maybe bothers me the most is our ordinance states that any person or entity that currently has a license shall not be issued another one unless there are no other qualified candidates for that license. So we're stymied by our own ordinance. Now, I suppose you could override it, but that's a slippery slope to go down in changing ordinances that are there for a reason. So I'm just perplexed about that.
May I ask a question? The last license, and I don't know if there was any other applicants, but I know the last license went to somebody who already held a license. I don't know if there was a second applicant or not.
There was 3 applicants. Can you speak on that?
So
Mr.
that has already happened at this township.
Yes, I can speak on that. The attorney representing, and I think you're referring to the Sidelines Italian. The attorney who represented Sidelines Italian made a creative, what I'll call a creative legal argument that because a separate LLC, a separate entity was established to make application for that license different and distinct from the entity that held the existing license here in the township, he made the argument that it wasn't in fact the same person or entity, and therefore they were eligible for that license. That was the legal argument that was made. You can interpret this ordinance to, I can interpret it anyhow, or I do interpret it to mean that it doesn't specifically state this, but anyone who has an interest in a license, be that through as a member of an LLC, a shareholder of a corporation, a partner in a partnership, you know, may be prohibited from obtaining another one if there isn't another qualified applicant. This board has discretion, but that does present them with a logistical problem, and if they follow the ordinance in the way it's been drafted, and this ordinance has been around for a long time, that it could be considered to technically disqualify you in the eyes of the board. So they'll have to grapple with that and to determine whether there are any other qualified applicants in determining how they're going to issue this license. And the board knows, based on a reading of the ordinance, that you're not required to issue a license today, tomorrow, or 10 months from now. You act in terms of what this board collectively believes to be in the best interest of the township. And if you feel that you don't have a good application, or that you want to hold on to it for a little while longer to see what develops in the future, you can do that. You have the authority to do that. The other side of the, I guess the side of the coin, Mr. Bates, with your application, I'm not sure how liquor control, if you were issued the license by the board, or through a resolution, you'd go to liquor control, as you well know. I'm not sure how they would look upon the fact that you don't currently have a facility, and I think you have an option to purchase real estate or something similar to that. And you know, they would look at the time frame and whether or not, how long they would let you hold on to that license before you actually have a physical facility to use it at. So that's another issue.
So if, say we did issue it to John, could we put something in place that in a year and a half, there has to be a building? Could we do something like that in the motion, or?
Our ordinance does allow the board to attach reasonable conditions to the issuance of a license. So it looks like to me, based on my reading of the agenda materials, that you've got two fairly qualified applicants, one who has a lot of experience in holding and owning a liquor license, and a good track record during the time that he's owned or held an interest in a liquor license, and like he says, doing it by the book. Maybe one who doesn't, but he wants to rehabilitate what now is a building that needs to be rehabilitated, and put a restaurant with a liquor license there, so liquor can be sold. So, you know, I guess you have to grapple with that.
Can I make one more comment? I'm actually able to put the liquor license I currently have for Sage in holding for a period of time. So I could technically put that license in holding and move the new license to that facility. Also, I can certainly open up another LLC. That takes like 5 minutes. So I'd just like to say that. I also like to make mention, I've owned not only the liquor license here in Bedford Township, I've had businesses in Toledo with liquor license with never one mark on them. I've been doing this business for 18 years.
I'm not suggesting or giving legal advice to you, of course, or suggesting to the board that that's what you need to do, is to open another LLC that would make application and hold the license. That's just the legal argument that was made the last time. And I think this board, I know this board came to the conclusion when that license was issued that that applicant made the best presentation through our application process and through the ordinance process, and that this board made the determination based on all the facts and all the applicants that was the most qualified application, and that there were no other really qualified applicants in that pool of applicants. So even though that legal argument was made, I think what carried the day is that a determination was made by the board that it was in the best interest of the township to issue that license to Sidelines Italian because they were the most qualified applicant. That's what the board decided. And I think that's what the decision rested upon.
Any more questions for Mr. Bates or for Mr. Goldsmith on the board? John, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, could we have the next applicant come on up?
Hi, everyone.
Could
My
you
name is
state-
Frances Elmazi. I and my husband are previous
Could you state
owners.
your name and address? I'm sorry.
My name is Frances Elmazi. We live in 7718 Windsor Lane, Lambertville, Michigan. I and my husband are the previous owners of American Table Family Restaurant in Lambertville on Secor Road. We came to the United States in 1994 with our 5 kids. By profession, I'm a teacher. My husband is a lawyer. Due to the hard circumstances at the time, he could not practice law, nor could I teach. So in order to make ends meet, we began working long hours in restaurants, and I also worked as a second job as a bilingual teacher at Wayne County RESA, directed by Dr. Kathy Storchin. After we learned and experienced all the aspects of a restaurant, we decided to open our own in 1999. That's our first American Table in Livonia, Michigan. Since then, we have opened one in Lambertville, Perrysburg, and currently we are in Fostoria, Ohio. Now we're looking to try something new by bringing a restaurant and a bar to the old Spring Arbor University building. And with the community growing, I'm sure they would appreciate our fresh take on American food. At the moment, our plans are as follows. We are looking to open a restaurant and bar where our primary sales would be the food and liquor accompanying. We wish to create a fresh American menu that people will enjoy any time of the day. Our beer and spirits, we want to complement not only our menu, but also the taste of our community members. We will create an open and invite atmosphere for young and old alike to come and enjoy our great food and company. A bar area, dining room, and patio, we also included as options for our guests to dine in. The details of our decor are still being worked out, but we want to create an atmosphere that is modern, clean, and slick, but also relaxed and inviting for after a long day of school, work, shopping, and football games. Our tentative hours of operation will be from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. during the week, with the bar staying open past the kitchen until 2 a.m. to serve the late night patrons looking to enjoy each other's company or even celebrate a birthday or promotion. With all that being said, I'm seeking from you a liquor license in order to make this plan a reality. I think a new place in the heart of the community is just what Bedford is looking for, not to only continue our growth, but also bring our people even closer together. And I believe with the hard work we've done in the Bedford community, worked as hard as we can as a family, I believe we're a candidate for a liquor license.
Okay. Board members, have any questions for the applicant?
Not a question, a comment. I think they're both applicants, in my view, are good applicants. I like both plans, business plans. One was spelled out a little in more detail than the other, but in my mind, they probably would both be good for Bedford. Too bad we don't have 2 licenses we're talking about. I'm still troubled with our ordinance, and does it hamstring us?
Well, does it, Phil?
It does, unless you reached the conclusion that there were no other qualified applicants. It does hamstring you, yes.
Mr. Clemens?
I kind of want to echo, neither applicant have I met before tonight. And so I don't have any relationship with either. To me, this has been probably one of the most challenging things I've seen come across my desk, because it puts us in a position of having to pick a winner and a loser. And traditionally, there's ordinance that's very clear. And even in our ordinance, as Mr. Goldsmith has said, this board has already deviated once from it. And I want to read it specifically. It says, a person or entity who currently has a license and seeks another license unless there are no other qualified applicants and being the operative word, the township board determines that it is in the best interest of the township to issue a license to the person or entity. I think where I come down on this is I look at it, and my commitment has always been what is in the best interest of our community. And I have to weigh the opportunity that Shaken Not Stirred LLC brings to the Stern Secor area, the additional door fronts that will likely open up as a result of that, versus a single location ownership. Our hands are tied a little bit by the language of this ordinance, but I don't think it's unrealistic that this board has ever deviated based on logic and reason. To me, this comes down to a simple question. Which applicant will provide the most or the greatest amount of economic development to the residents and Township of Bedford from a standpoint of taxation, from a standpoint of amenities in the community? And I think as a trustee, that's what I have to look at. It doesn't come down to the personalities. It doesn't come down to, whether I want a live band or I want a bar with TVs. My responsibility is where do I think we can create success as much as government needs to stay out of trying to create success. So I just wanted to make sure the board had thought through that mental gymnastic, because I think it's critical here that at the very least we don't jump to a conclusion, because I think the greater economic development is what we've all talked about is important in this community. And this really is a chance where, as a board, we're going to have a say in that. And I think we need to give pause to how we want to handle that. So, thank you.
I appreciate that. Mr. Frederick?
I've known John for a long time. And I see two competing interests here. One is a new facility that will be constructed. The other one is the rehabilitation of another facility. These are the competing interests in an economic side of things. Any way we look at this, we're going to be picking winners, because these licenses are valuable. I try to take off my lawyer hat when I read some of these ordinances that are in place. We've already talked about them. It says that no license or permit shall be issued to someone who already has one, unless there are no qualified applicants. We have a qualified applicants. The documentation is full, not to say that John's isn't full too. It's complete. My view is I'm concerned about the fact that, let's assume we pick A, and we send the conclusion that we have made to the state, and the state says, wait a minute, it's going to be a year before this is going to be done, completed, ready to go. Another one says it's 250 days, which is 2/3 of a year. How are they going to respond? Because we only recommend who gets it. We do not make the final decision. And then they look at our ordinance and say, how did you reach that conclusion? So if we choose A, then we have to decide how it is in the best interest of the township to issue the license to a person who already has one. Now, Phil gave us some interesting legal conundrum. I call them pithy issues. And I understand. And John said, well, I can just give another LLC tomorrow. I know that. You just change the name and send in another $50. It doesn't take long. I've seen those, done those. I guess I'm pondering the two economic principles here. One, a new facility on the corner of Secor Stearns. Another one, rehabilitating a business that is sitting there empty. Which is the most important issue for the board to address? And I'm still struggling. I'm done, thank you.
What is the current zoning of Spring Arbor
At the moment,
at the moment?
it's a vacant building. We're trying to,
No, zoning, is it C1?
I think it's C.
It's C2, you do know
I
that?
think it's in the, yeah.
So it's a permitted use within the zoning?
Yeah, I think it's in her application, that's C2, and I looked
Yeah, I
at it
didn't catch that
before.
in there.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, I've seen it somewhere, and I drove by and looked at it and looked at the zoning map.
Mr. Supervisor, question, do you currently own that building?
C2.
My son-in-law does.
Son-in-law?
Yes.
Is he a partner in this business or
No.
a landlord?
No, just myself.
Okay.
That's permitted use. I never looked at, do we know what the zoning is in the corner of Secor Stearns? I haven't looked at that. I looked at this one only because I drove by it and wanted to check.
The one in question for my development?
The underlying zoning. Is it C2 or C3?
I see,
Or,
Property in question for me is C3 on the far west.
yeah,
Okay.
that's, yeah.
and that's the underlying zoning, but what's being developed is a planned unit development.
It's a Lambertville overlay. It's the overlay district. That's,
Yeah, I think that is captured in the overlay district. Does that come well, I'm thinking, does it come that far south?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Okay.
And also east.
that's why I'm asking. I forgot to go look, and I apologize for not doing that. Because I knew it was, I was concerned that it was the Lambertville overlay. And the Lambertville overlay requires some certain finding on the part of the board. I apologize, I didn't go looking for that.
No, that's okay. And I don't want to, we have two things at work here. It's my understanding that it's not currently part of the downtown development district.
No.
It is not. And I'm just not certain if it's part of the overlay district, if the overlay district runs that far south from what I'll call the village center of Lambertville, which is Secor and Summerfield, or in that general area of the old village center of Lambertville. I'm not sure on that, but I can state this with certainty that that parcel is going to be developed as a commercial development, and zoning is not going to be an issue, and there will be a planned unit development plan submitted, and I think ultimately
So it will be a permitted use.
it will be a permitted use. I have no doubt whatsoever.
Are you a partner with your son-in-law?
No. We're leasing the building from my son-in-law.
Okay, and what's your son-in-law's name?
Jimmy Demirovsky?
Mr. Supervisor, since I asked Mr. Bates, what is your projected date of opening at this point?
Well, we're looking within a year, should be done. I mean, we have ready, we know which companies we're going to use, or planning inside. We have already established how the building's going to look, where the patio's going to be, the kitchen with the dining room, and everything else. So it'll take probably a year.
Yeah, because I told the guys
I
was.
don't know exactly, but I'm sure a year it's going to take. It's not going to be less than that.
Yeah, because I was a little confused. I met with the owner of Red Star, what was that, Greg, about 6 months ago? And he said he owns the Spring Arbor building.
Right.
Okay.
He does
so-
own it, yes.
Okay, so who is that in relation to?
That's my son-in-law,
That's your son-in-law?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'm putting the pieces together now. Okay, all right.
yes.
Mr. Supervisor, can we go back to the ordinance? Because two of our board members have made really good points with respect to what is, I think, troubling some of the board members. So, and I don't want to leave the board with the thought that we violated the ordinance the last time, because we didn't. Because I think a finding of fact was made that there were no other qualified applicants, and it was in the best interest of the township to resolve to award that license or issue that license to the entity to whom it was issued. So if you look at the ordinance specifically, section 4, it starts out, no such license or permit shall be issued to, and then there's a list. So let's go. No such license or permit shall be issued to, and then if you move on to paragraph 8, a person or entity who currently has a license and seeks another license. But it doesn't end there. There's a comma, and it says, unless there are no other qualified applicants and the township board determines that it is in the best interest of the township to issue the license to the person or entity. So what happened last time, my belief is, having sat through that hearing, is that the board determined at that time that even though the applicant held a license, they determined two things. One, that there were no other qualified applicants. That's important. And two, the board determined that it was in the best interest of the township to issue the license to that applicant who already had a license. So the ordinance was followed, I believe. So that's the analysis I think you have to engage in tonight. And it's a tough question for the board to grapple with. Tough issue.
TC brought, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
TC brought up a point earlier where which applicant would benefit the township more? Is that paraphrasing what you were aiming at? One is a single entity, a single building, and the other one is part of a larger development that probably all of the businesses in there would help each other. So if you're looking at what does one applicant provide that the other one doesn't, well, one of them is part of a much larger development, if you will, that's planned.
Well, for me, you know, working with Mr. Bates on that project, I've been in a number of meetings on it, and I'm really excited about the project. I think it's going to be one of the best projects in Bedford if it comes to fruition, what has been talked about, and at least from what I've seen. But the liquor license would be probably a pretty important key to what he's wanting to do there in the grand scheme of things. Now, you know, when the census comes, are we going to see any new liquor permits? You know, how far out is that? You know, I don't know. Are we going to see another one, you know, with the new census? But, you know, I would hate to see a development not, you know, come to fruition because, you know, of the liquor permit. So, and that is the tough situation we have here. We have, like you said, a single, and then you have something that's part of a grand scheme of things, so.
And both applicants offer something in the township. They're both, to me, qualified applicants.
Any more questions, Ms.?
After the 2020 census, if our township population goes up, there is a very good chance we could get not just one, but multiple liquor licenses.
But how far out is that? 2
Yeah.
years? Yeah.
2 years plus.
After the last census, it was like a year and a half before we got the notice, was my recollection, that there were more licenses. But that was the 2000, and we got 2 more. I don't know what happened in 2010. You might know.
2010, we received 3 more.
Okay.
And liquor control never really did formally notify us.
Not
Yeah.
at this one.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, so it was kind of a surprise when it showed up on their website when we checked it, because they never notified the clerk, which you would have thought they would have done that.
Well,
They always
we
have it
were
in the
notified because somebody in the township applied to the state for it.
Because, that's right.
That's how we found
Not by
out.
liquor control, but by an
By the
applicant
applicant.
who went online and saw Bedford Township had a Class C license available, but the township wasn't notified by liquor control.
Okay, so any more questions for the applicant? None? Thank you very much,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, discussion from board members? Seeing none, I.
Does anyone besides me think we might need some more information? Maybe on both projects or proposals? Specifically one. And is that something that we ought to consider at another meeting, that we table this one for a meeting for a month or something, some period of time where we can get some information? Does that make any sense to anyone?
I don't think it's a bad idea at all to get more information
What kind of information?
about what he's proposing.
What's really planned for John Bates' proposal?
Mr. Frederick?
Well, clearly, the applicant from Jeff LLC will be a change in use of the facility. And as a change in use of the facility, there will be the requirement to bring it all up to current code, bring it all up to current use for the particular, up to code for the use that is proposed. So that's one side of the house. With respect to Mr. Bates' proposal, that's all a brand-new facility, so it will be brought in place up to code. So the only difference is you're changing the use of one facility. This is a brand-new facility as part of an overall complex. We don't know if the complex will go forward, don't know if it'll ever be used, but let's assume that he will indeed build at least the restaurant and the bar and the facility. The other building would be just change in use and would just be rehabilitated. And I don't know anything about the facility other than it was used as a university and a teaching facility, but a change of use will require substantial changes perhaps through the facility. But that'll all be determined when and if the plans come to the building department and they start to look at it and start going through the process of approving the changes that need to be made. Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, if you look at your ordinance, Ordinance 90, under Section 27.003, Section Roman numeral 3, and if you flip the page, subparagraph B, procedure, paragraph 2, states facilities plan. The application shall be accompanied by existing and/or proposed site, building, and plat plan showing the entire structures and the specific areas in the structure or on the site plan where the license or permits will be issued, including a plan for interior use and layout. Now, maybe I didn't see that in my packet, and maybe they did supply that. If they did, then I stand corrected. But if they didn't, I think compliance with that part of the ordinance could be of great help to the board in determining, you know, how to make your decision. So just a suggestion.
I don't have that.
You're talking more detail than what was presented.
Actually, I didn't even see that detail.
You wanna see
so,
it?
Last page of Jeff LLC.
Okay.
I had that.
My packet probably didn't get copied on the back page. That's what. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think in my packet, I received not a sketch, but maybe it is a sketch, of what the proposed changes to the Spring Arbor building, I'll call it that for lack of a better title. But we didn't get anything on the other one. And to me, to make a fair determination, maybe we ought to have the same kind of information from both sides, or both applicants. And that's what I was referring to, and maybe we want to table this and for a short period of time until we can come up with that idea, or come up with that.
It was out of the same format.
Yeah, there was a
I have a question.
Searchberger?
When the last liquor license went out, we were presented information. We didn't table and ask them to bring more information back. We just went ahead and issued it based on what they gave us with their original application. We didn't say, let's wait now and see if they can correct what they didn't give us. So are we gonna do a double standard here, where this one we want everything, but the last one we just issued it based on what they had when they presented it?
But I do think this is a different situation, though, with the development we're talking about. I mean, we have to look at the whole big picture with this, with our community. What's best for our community? If we waited and Mr. Bates did get the liquor license and it affected the whole community in a way to where this development went through, I think we have to consider that as well. Last time, we didn't have that. We didn't even have close to it. I think Mr. Clemens' point was a very good point.
Mr.
Clemens?
Supervisor, not to complain or cast aspersions at all, but in our packet, we have what I would only describe as either a modified or an abridged version of the ordinance. I know twice now, the document that Mr. Goldsmith is reading and the document in our board packet are not one and the same. Given the sensitiveness of this project, I don't want to be disrespectful to either applicant and hold up your work, and I realize that that's not good for you either. But this is a tough vote, and I don't know how comfortable I am not having read the entire ordinance forward to backwards. I think obviously your guidance is spot on, so that statement doesn't reflect anything on our council. We always get incredibly good advice, but I just wanted to make sure that we were noted that the full ordinance is not in the package.
Well, I have a question. Mr. Bates, can you come on up for a second? Yes. Yeah. We want people to hear you. Say we did table this and we gave you a month. Is this something that you could produce, like she
I
has?
can produce, I already have the drawing of the commercial lot where this would be going in the PUD and the layout of the lot, and I do know what area of the layout it can go in. So yeah, I can have an architect draw that up in, no time at all. I just want to be frank and honest. I came in and filed the paperwork, and I was told at the clerk that because of the ordinance, I probably wouldn't be even considered for this liquor license, which I do need, and I've looked into some of the, the state special use license, but I wasn't even notified that, I was going to be brought up in the hearing till today. I didn't get any notification whatsoever. And from the assumption I got from the clerk's office,
Who in the clerk's department told you that?
whoever I submitted to just said, I want you to know that the ordinance says that.
Who was it?
I don't know everybody's name, I'm just,
Because there's only 3 of us, that's why I'm asking.
whoever I gave the paperwork to. And then that's why I knew about the sidelines one, because she said, but last time sidelines got it, so you might be. But I thought I would get some notification, I never saw anything, so I wasn't really prepared tonight. I got a call at 5:30 and said, you're on the docket tonight. So I could have been a little bit more prepared.
Oh, we apologize for that.
No worries, I mean, I'm just stating the facts.
Any more questions for Mr. Bates? That was the only one I had.
I have another one for her.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Frederick?
Madam, you have signed the lease for 7495 Secor Road. You've
Yes.
signed it.
Yes.
Do you have an out, because I've read it? Suppose you don't get the liquor license. Are you going to proceed anyhow?
No,
Huh?
no, we're not.
Well, I sure hope you got an out, because the lease I see doesn't have an out.
I know. We talked with the lawyer about that. If you get the liquor license,
Well,
that's
you
what
do
we
have kind of a relationship that you can work on.
Yes, yes, yes,
And we would hope so.
yes. We
I
asked the
just
same,
wanted
we
to
asked the
ask
same
that
thing with the
question. You're
lawyer.
not go- You would not go forward without the liquor license?
No, we will not.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that all?
That's it.
Is that all?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table this issue for not more than 30 days, or, so we can gather the information we were speaking of a few minutes ago, namely a copy of the ordinance itself that TC would like to see, and some plans and concept of what the other one was going to be. Then we can fairly judge between the two, which might be better for the township.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a support?
I'll support that for discussion purposes.
Okay, motion supported. Discussion? Mr. Frederick?
John, how quick can you have a conceptual?
Can you come up to the mic, though,
Yeah.
if you're going to talk to him? Sorry, up and down. People at home can't hear.
I mean, we have this one on the back, which,
Conceptual, I mean, 30 days would not be a problem. How much, you need some time to review it beforehand, so 3 weeks?
I just asked the question if 30 days was,
30 days would be fine.
okay.
Architects work fast.
Yeah, I mean, you can do an architectural rendering in half a minute. Put it on a CAD cam.
Yeah, well, they'll be charging me for it, but I can get it done.
Oh, well, that's, okay,
Is that
Thanks,
it?
John.
thank you.
Any more discussion from board members? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes no. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 5-1. Okay, number 3, consent agenda, the agenda committee reports. A, the committee recommends to the full board to approve and place on file the minutes of the August 21st, 2018 regular meeting for the Bedford Township Board. B, the committee recommends, excuse me, to the full board to appoint Kenneth Kilman to the Construction Code Board of Appeals for a first term ending 12/31/2020.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Okay. Number 2, approval of the agenda. Sorry about that.
Move to approve as published.
Support.
Motion is supported. Discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Good catch, Nancy. Do I have to read the number 3
No.
again? Okay. I look for a motion.
What,
Motion to
the
approve the
consent
consent
agenda?
agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Move to approve as published.
Support.
Okay. Motion supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Number 4, presentations. They have none. 5, public comment. Comments limited to 2 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up. Seeing none. Number 6, staff reports. A, request for approval to hire Shawn, McBride, Don Marsh, and Lindsay Ouellette as full-time employees as the Bedford, for the Bedford Fire Department. Chief, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. These are the safer grant positions that were approved in the last meeting, and we did an internal candidate search. We had 3 candidates for the 4 positions internally. So we bring them forward to you with a recommendation to offer them positions tonight. We're still working on the 4th position and identifying a qualified candidate, working through a process. We hope to bring a qualified candidate to you in the next few meetings.
How are you looking for the qualified candidate?
We posted it, and we've sent some feelers out across the region to see if we can find some qualified candidates externally, since we don't have a fourth internally.
Could you shoot Al and I a link so we can put it on Facebook too?
Yeah, it's on, and it's on the.
It's on the website?
Yep.
We'll go to the website then, okay. Okay, any questions for Chief Massengill? Mr. Frederick?
One question I forgot to ask you when we were at the last meeting of the Fire Advisory Board. Does this SAFER grant cover overtime?
It does not, no, sir.
I didn't think so. I forgot to ask that question. Thank you.
Mr. Steiner?
Chief, I think, pretty sure we'd also discussed last time that you had to actually write job descriptions and everything for the full-time. Have we completed all that process?
We're putting some finishing touches on it. Generally speaking, the 3 job descriptions are the same as we have for our paid-on-call members. The only difference really being that they're full-time employees. So we've been working through a proposal much like we did with the Policies and Procedures Manual to get over to the board and be approved for full-time positions, but the job descriptions themselves don't change, whether it's paid-on-call or full-time. The only thing that changes is whether or not they're in the stations for
And the
designated
requirements, basically. Okay, that's what I was looking for, is the requirements for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Francis?
Refresh my memory on how the
Chief, can you pull the
funds
mic to your
from the
closer?
grant are received. Do we have to apply for them and show what we've paid out?
We
how
do,
does that-
we apply, I believe it's quarterly, so we'll submit for quarterly reimbursement of those funds, and then the reimbursement is directly deposited into our accounts.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Seeing none, again, we appreciate all your hard work on this, and we're excited that we at least have 3 internal candidates to get full-time jobs within. Are these all people that live within the township?
2 of the 3 of them do. I believe Mr. Marsh is a Whiteford resident.
Okay, very cool,
Locally.
very cool. Okay. I look for a motion.
Supervisor?
I
I'd
move
like-
to approve the employment of Shawn McBride, Don Marsh, Lindsay Ouellette under the SAFER grant positions at the salaries posted in the memorandum from the chief.
I'll second.
Okay, motion supported, Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Item 6B, request for approval to return Chief Adam Massengill's salary to $75,000 for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion that we return Chief Massengill's salary to $75,000 annually per year.
Motion
Second.
supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion?
By his request.
Correct. Is that a friendly amendment?
Right, that a
Mr.
friendly
Francis?
amendment?
Accepted.
Yeah.
Accepted.
Did you clear this with your wife? Okay.
Okay. Call the roll,
I,
please. Oh, go ahead.
I don't really like doing that, but it's his request, and I'll honor his request.
Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Thank you, Chief. Item 7, old business, we have none. 8, new business. A, request for approval of vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $186,904.31. Fire District, $39,402.13. Police Fund, $59.41. Park Fund, $2,514.76. Transit System Fund, $15,469. Library Fund, $2,888.15. Rehabilitation Fund, $30. Indian Acres, $95,503.67. Mildred Avenue SAD, $57.66. Springbrook SAD, $57.66. Sewer O&M Fund, $1,356.02. Trust and Agency Fund, $107.25, for a grand total of $344,350.02.
I'll support.
Motion supported by Mr. Francis. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Item 8B, request for approval to authorize a change in the consumer's energy lighting contract to include the streetlight in Village Meadows Subdivision Plat 3. Ms. Hirschberger?
Attached, you'll find the resolution from consumers that would need our approval. This is for one street light. Like I said, the developer has already paid the $100 for the light. The monthly charges for this light will be $11.75, and that will be spread amongst the lot owners.
Okay, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution for the one light as presented.
Support.
Motion is supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Item 8C, request for final plat approval for the Village Meadows Subdivision Plat 3. Mr. Fredericks?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I move upon recommendation of the Planning Commission a notice of the completed delivery of all required documents to the Township Clerk before final plat approval, that the request by Village Meadows Holding LLC for final plat approval for Village Meadows Plat 3 be approved, subject to a copy of the Road Commission and Drain Commission construction plans be submitted to the Township Building Official prior to the clerk signing the final plat.
Second.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Hirschberger. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Number 9, comments from the public. Comments limited to 5 minutes for each individual. Come on up. Logan?
Nobody.
It's been 2.5 years. No, we're good. Okay, moving on to. Okay, all right. Number 10, comments from Township Board members. Mr. Steiner?
Just real simple. As we all know, today's first day of school here in Michigan. Our kids are out there. Let's be safe. And kids, if you're listening, take it upon yourselves, for those of you that are driving to and from school, some of those are new to driving. We have way too many accidents that happen Bedford Township and around the country. So please be aware, put the phones away while you're driving, and God forbid, don't drink and drive because you're also underage. That's all I have.
Mr. Clemens?
Only thing I want to do is just tell both applicants on the liquor license tonight, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming and the time it took to put together the applications. And hopefully we'll have a answer back for you in a timely period. Other than that, Mr. Supervisor, I have nothing.
Okay. Mr. Frederick?
Two things. Chief, it's really good to see this program move forward. We've been talking about it for about a year now. I'm sure that the folks that we have appointed this evening will be delivering high-quality services to our citizens and any of those who are traveling through our community who need advanced life support. And clearly the fact that we have folks on duty almost 24/7 is really important. These are the kind of programs that you have worked hard on, and they're coming to fruition. I applaud you for that. Number 2, I'm wearing a shirt tonight from the battlefield at the River Raisin. And they have recently received a substantial number of grants to purchase houses, to demolish houses, to build a 1812 or thereabouts community. That will bring millions of visitors to our community. It's going to take them several years to put it in place. But I think it's something that we here in Bedford will also have the opportunity to enjoy. So if you haven't been up to the battlefield to see what's going on and to see the current national park, one of the few in the nation, you ought to pack up your bag and baggage and go up there. It's a great thing to see, and they are wonderful, wonderful guides who explain what's going on. I think as this progresses, it'll be something that Monroe County, and including Bedford, will have great pride in how it goes forward. That's it, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis.
Just a note to remind people that their summer real estate taxes are due this month, September 14th. If they're paid on the 15th, the law requires us to assess penalty and interest. So to avoid that, please pay them by the 14th. I hate to keep mentioning that, and we're not begging for money, we're just trying to state what the law requires us to do.
Ms. Hirschberger?
The township update will be going out September 11th, Tuesday, so look for that in your mailboxes. We are going to register high school seniors on September 13th at the high school, so hopefully we'll get a lot of our seniors registered. And then the deadline for registration, if you want to vote in the November 6th election, is October 9th. So you want to get those registrations in to the township before that. And that's all I have.
Okay. A few things. I shared a video on Community News and Events about stopping for the school buses. It's amazing all the live footage the buses has of people going around the stop signs and kids almost getting hit. So, really try to pay attention. It just started yesterday, so keep an eye out for that. And, September 11th is coming around here in the next couple days, and every year that day hits home for a lot of people. I'll never forget where I was at or who I was with on that day, and, my heart goes out to all those people that are still affected today by it. I want to give a shout out to the Bedford community, our Bedford Beautification Committee. They created these really cool bags, and they're actually going to have Steve Pollock, retired Blade outdoor editor and environmentalist, speaking at the library September 15th from 11 to 12 on how to survive in the age of plastics. The talk that beautification is more than yard of the month. They are pushing the green initiative to stop using plastic bags, and they have been out in the environment. I want to thank Kroger for starting to phase out their plastic bags and going back to paper. And I just want to thank the Beautification Committee for all your hard work. And if you're looking to get on a really cool committee with a lot of cool ladies, it's and guys too if you want to join. But they do a lot of hard work in this community, and it doesn't go unnoticed, all the work that they do. But they do need help, so we appreciate it if you sign up and help them out. I had a great meeting on the TAP grant. If you are interested in looking at it, it's kind of shows a little bit. We're meeting with business owners on each corner. I met with 2 of them last week with Manica Smith. They're really excited what we're doing down there. Today actually started the micro-servicing project that goes from Pickard Road to State Line, so look for that. Hopefully it'll be done, weather permitting, before Temperance Days on September 8th. There's going to be a lot of cool functions going on downtown Temperance. September 8th, we'll have Lake Erie Transit doing shuttle rides from Northwest Christian Church from 10 to 4. So if you don't want to park down there where it's kind of really busy, park at the church, and LAT will take you and pick you up at the Monroe Bank and Trust. There's going to be a few different politicians there that day, so if you wanted to ask questions of any of them, there will be a few different booths down there for that. Lots of good food and activities and a lot of free food and stuff for the kids. So come on out to Temperance Day, September 8th. And there's been a lot of talk on the Facebook pages about all the break-ins and different stuff with vehicles. it's been going on every year. It could be a little worse this year than last year, but in the day of Facebook, everybody posts everything. Just be careful what you post. And lock your cars at night if you live in a neighborhood. Don't make it easy for them. Don't leave your garage door open at night. There's a lot of simple things, and I'm sure Mr. Clements, being in law enforcement, could probably tell us a few more things we could really do to prevent making theft easy, but, you know, they are trying to put together a Bedford Watch group. Tim Fitzgerald with the Veterans Center is organizing that to get roughly 20 to 25 residents in the community to get involved with this watch program. So if you're looking to get involved, give him a call and see what that's all about. But other than that, no further comments. And I do appreciate both applicants coming in here and taking the time to fill this out, because we do take it very seriously. And you could probably see from our conversation we don't have meetings before the meetings. We try to have our meetings on TV, and so it might look like we're a little unorganized with kind of our discussions and how they go. That's because we're having our first meeting in front of the public. So we appreciate your patience and your work in it. We stand adjourned.